This is the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. Inside, you'll learn how to build, grow, and scale your digital marketing agency, all from the comfort of your favorite coffee shop. Let's get started with the show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast, the podcast that gives you a little inside look into how entrepreneurs have built and grown their digital marketing agencies. I am Tabitha Thomas, your host, and if this is your first time listening to the podcast and you like learning about how digital agencies run, I encourage you to go hit that subscribe button as we release new episodes each and every Tuesday. So today I have with me Jeff Mendelson. Jeff is a Miami-based digital marketer, strategist, podcaster, lead gen expert, founder, president, and creator-in-chief. Heading multiple businesses, he stays pretty busy, but we're lucky enough to get him to discuss his marketing expertise with us. So Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, super excited to talk with you. So if you've listened to any of our podcasts, we kind of start them all the same, we end them all the same, which is I kind of like that. It may make us a little bit different, but I like hearing the stories about how someone came to be where they are now, because all of us are in digital marketing, but not all the paths look exactly the same. So did you always know that this is what you wanted to do? Did you always know that you wanted to own a business, or did it kind of just pop up along the way?
It sort of snuck up on me. I don't know if you remember that there was this Super Bowl commercial for Monster.com where it was just showing all these complacent kids, right? Where it's like, I want to be a yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right away, sir, type thing. And it didn't hit me at the time when I saw that commercial, right? But then it just, like, the more I worked and the more I dealt with where I realized that I was building other people's dreams, and that whether you work for this huge corporation like American Express, or whether this 20-person company that does, that sells like IVR, or like call tracking stuff, I realized that all I'm doing as a salaried employee is enriching someone else's dream, right? But at the same time, I didn't quite know how to break out of it, right? And then you have a bunch of near but external factors, right? Like kids, mortgage, your $5 a day coffee habit, right? Like all of a
Stop
sudden,
talking about me.
I know, right? And you get you get hooked on it, and then it's like, wait a second, the second you write down your budget, right? And you're like, oh shoot, I have to replace that much income in order to maintain the same lifestyle that I have today. That is a scary, scary prospect. And what you need to think about then is, okay, how am I going to break out of this? The way I did it was, I was like, something, I'm going to become a real estate agent, mortgage broker. So fun fact, 1 out of every 8 citizens in the state of Florida has a real estate license. Okay. So it's, so I joined a really big club, right? And what happened was, the first thing I did was, I'm like, well, I need a website, right? So I go to the supermarket, I get those real estate books, that they have like in the front of the store. And I would go through, I just started hacking each one of their websites to see what it is that they were putting, how they were doing it. And I set about rebuilding, building a site, a presence for myself. So after 4 or 5 months of doing that, instead of actually going out and doing the actual work I'm saying I'm going to do, which is like selling houses and all that, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm doing this all on corporate time, right? I'm doing this all while I had my full-time job. It's just like, oh, geez, until finally one time, this one guy, he sort of gave me a virtual, hit on the back of the head, and was like, listen, bro, you're not a real estate agent. You're not a salesman, and he was right. It's like, you kind of have to come to terms with it. But but my website did look good, right? I mean, it was great because, at the time, these other real estate agents had really crap websites, right? So all this time that I'm working in corporate now, and I've had all kinds of different jobs, like, technical sales, technical support. I was, usually a technical position in the sales department, if you will, pre-sales. And they would never give me enough work to fill up the day, right? So I would go in and I would get everything done by 11:30 in the morning, and you can't really go home.
No.
Right? You can't. And I don't smoke, right? So what am I going to do outside with the smokers? So I started teaching myself how to build websites, Joomla, WordPress, learn a little bit of PHP. So when anyone would walk by my desk, they would be like, "Oh my God, this guy Jeff, he's just cranking out. I'm always, on the keyboard." They would start giving me awards, right? Like a most productive employee of the month, and Jeff's such a great guy, and he solves all these problems. And I'm like, if you guys had half a clue of what it is I do here on a daily basis, wow,
Uh,
right?
yep.
So 11 and a half years ago, I got fired from my last job, which makes me about certified unemployable at this point. And what I did was, as I was building websites for people, I was, at first it was great money for, an extra dinner out a week type thing, or,
Mm-hmm.
something for the little extras. But what happened was I would be like, how am I going to grow this? How am I going to replicate this? And it really started out with one angel client, right? Who basically, she had about like 50 websites under her belt, but she had this webmaster that was just tearing her apart on the per hour to maintain all of them. And since they were all Joomla sites, and I was already a Joomla expert by then, I was able to go in there and I'm like, look, I'll put you on a retainer, right? You send me everything, I'll do it. And cost wise, it worked out for her. All of a sudden, I'm getting an extra, I don't know, like $1,000 a month, just for fixing really easy things like, can you make the heading a little bit bigger?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, things that would take me, like 20 seconds to do, this other guy was charging, 2 hours of time, and it just didn't make sense. And then I realized, like, wait a second, this has really got legs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is how you
And
get out.
yeah, this is how you get out. And it started there. From there, I moved into website hosting, which is a great residual,
Mm-hmm.
like a recurring income. It's not something I'm going to necessarily get rich off of, but but it's steady. It provides a
Mm-hmm.
good foundation. And then after that, I started getting into the marketing aspect, which for me was much more exciting, because when you get a website contract, that's usually, you get a big check in the beginning and a big check at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if you walk away, like, your focus is about building the website and then being done, and then you got to go out and go sell another one, right? And
Mm-hmm.
most of the time people are like, well, I already bought a website from you, why do I need another one, or why does it need to be upgraded so quick, things like that. So I would try to find any kind of ways to extract more money, whether it's some kind of maintenance fee, or I'm like, well, I can also market this for you. I could also write the content for you, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I would sell this stuff, like, not having a clue on how to do it. And then I'm like, as soon as they said yes, that's when you start sweating. And that's when you go to Upwork or Elance, or
Mm-hmm.
wherever you need to go, and find somebody who can. And that's basically how I started the business.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, I know one of the questions that everyone loves for me to ask is, what did the first 6 months feel like? What did it look like? What were some of the hurdles? Because how many people do we know that are just starting out, that they're just like you, they're scared to death to replace that income? So, what did the first 6 months, I mean, was it really hard making that switch?
It was scary AF. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, yeah, it is scary, because what happens is that, you're replacing one income. And if you look at it from a purely financial, like a financial point of view, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. And a lot of people are like 6 weeks away from financial ruin when they lose their jobs, if they don't have enough savings, or they don't have something else going on. I mean, getting a job, 11 years ago versus now, it it would always take me like a long time to do it. Like, it doesn't just, oh, I'll just go online and I'll be hired by Monday. It doesn't work
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? So yes, very scary, right? But at the same time, it's very invigorating, because what I noticed was, I happen to think I have an impressive resume. You're welcome to go check it out on LinkedIn, right? But what happens is that I would send out this resume and I wouldn't get any calls back. I wouldn't get any calls back. But if I was to, make a pitch for web design services or marketing services, I could usually close 7 out of 10 of people I'm talking to. And I'm like, wait a second, like, why is that? Right.
Yeah.
And the main so a friend of mine, very wisely told me, he's like, listen, the main difference is that when you send a resume, you're sending it to an HR person, right, who's not the
Mm-hmm.
decision maker, who kicks it over to maybe someone in that department who's filtering it for the hiring manager, right? So it's going through all these things, and maybe you're just not getting through to that noise. Whereas when you're selling a web design project, you are talking directly to the decision maker,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think once you make that shift, right, that's where like everything just goes. So the clouds part, the sun starts shining down on you, because then you realize, like, wait a second, I can really do this. Now, the thing you need to watch out for, right, is that you need a number of these clients in order to make this work, right? So if you're charging, I don't know, 1,000, let's just say $1,000 per month per client, right? So what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
You're 6 clients away from making this dream come true, to replacing an average salary at a middle
Mm-hmm.
level, whatever you're doing in corporate, right? So you need like 6 of those, right? And that's great if you can do it. Now, what happens when you lose one of those clients? It's not like losing a job, because you still have 5 others,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it things, but it doesn't kill. And that's the most important part, right? Is that as long as you're providing good service and you're serving your customers well, and you're providing value above what they are paying you to do, then great. You are virtually guaranteed a position in your own company. And I think that's one of the most important things to think about as you're putting this together, is, okay, who am I serving, and how well am I going to serve them?
Yes. Yes. So, so true. I get asked that all the time. What's the one common factor in all of these agency owners? And it's always they all have a passion for helping someone else. Like that has to be number one, or you're not going to succeed, period, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
how
It's a good thing.
many clients did you have on your plate when you finally left the corporate job?
I think I had like 3 or 4.
3 or 4?
All right. So keep in mind, like, I was laid off. It was forced upon me, right?
Oh,
Perfectly
okay.
happy going into an office, collecting a salary on top of everything else that I was doing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
one's guaranteed and the other isn't. But I honestly think that I was blessed then, and I'm blessed now. To
Awesome.
have to be able to grow as an agency owner, and to come up with these different ways to provide service to my customers, right? Whether it's just website design, or building sales funnels, or chatbots, writing content marketing for people, running paid ads. These are all different but complementary activities that go into a holistic marketing approach that, in my opinion, every company needs, right? It
Yes.
just depends on what their budget is, and how well they are running their businesses, and things like that, which is,
So
now we're just getting down a whole
yeah,
different
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a whole different discussion. But yeah, I mean, you have to know who you serve. You have to be able to serve them well. You have to like it, right?
Mhm.
There are some parts of my business I do not like doing, but okay, it's like, sometimes it's just got to be done, because I just don't have someone else, on staff in order to tackle it at that one time.
Mhm.
And it's fine. That's part of being a business owner. But then again, you have to do things that you don't like in your marriage, or
Yeah.
or in your relationship with your significant other, or you really love your children when they get sick, and you have to go and take care of them and clean up after them and all that. So I view it as all part of the same game.
Yes. 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 So, who would you consider, or what do you consider an ideal client now? And what does your process look like for finding them? Because I'm sure it's changed over the years as you've grown.
Yeah, so it does morph, but also it shifts depending on what about what it is that I'm trying to sell, right? Because in an ideal world, it's like, what are we trying to build? We're trying to build a money tree, right? Where they're putting in $1, and then you're giving them back $1.20, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't always work like that, right? Especially with new businesses. So I try to stay away from new businesses. I definitely stay away from hobbyists. And what I'm looking for are established businesses that already have a marketing budget, that you don't need to sell them on why they need to pay
Mm.
Google X amount of money or why they need to pay Facebook X amount of money. They already need to understand, like, yes, this is what I need. Now, who's going to help me do it? You can get an MBA now on YouTube, right? I mean, there is so much, like, you don't need me to do it. All of these tools out there are self-service,
Mm-hmm.
right? But uh, you're also welcome to, spend the money. Like, I've seen ads, like for specific keywords on Google when I'm traveling in other countries for like a catering company in Brooklyn that was targeting me as I was searching for things in Mexico City. And it's like, what the hell is this, right? And that even becomes like hey man, I'm seeing your ad pop up over here. You're wasting ad dollars. Maybe I can help, right?
Yeah.
Type thing. So, you kind of got to be on the lookout for that. You also have to be, cognizant of, again, who are you serving and how much value you can bring to their organization, right? And as long as you can provide that consistently, then you're guaranteeing yourself, a position there.
Gotcha. So is it any particular niche, or are you just any organization that's got marketing right now?
So I have traditionally shied away from niching to lawyers, doctors, chiropractors, things like that. I just didn't. It just never excited me,
Yeah.
right? To be just the guy for lawyers. And I know the riches are in the niches, and I know that I've heard all of that. It's just not a modality that has worked for me.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, I try to evaluate based on based on how well I understand their industry, because some
Mm-hmm.
industries I just like flew past me, right? I don't understand what it is that you do, so I'm not going to take that.
Yeah.
But others is, but the flip side of that, right, is that I have access to the Google Analytics and the stats and all that for a range of different companies, from gynecologists to other kind of doctors to life coaches to e-commerce sites. So I'm able to borrow from what works in one area and apply it to another,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas I think that someone who's just dealing with lawyers is, well, they're just dealing with lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So
You do hear a lot of the whole, niching down. Yeah, yeah. All the riches are in niches, yes. But I wanted to. I'm glad that you say that you're not, because you can still be successful even if you don't. So I like pointing that out there. So if someone was new to digital marketing, where would you suggest they start on learning things and starting their agency? And
you know, um, so YouTube is like the obvious choice, right? You can learn anything there, but there's a lot of garbage out there as well. Like, who do you trust? Like who do you believe, right? Because
mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people that's just like, oh yeah, this is how I do cold calling, and this is how I make $1,000 a week using emails, and this one email, made me $50,000 in 6 hours, things like that. It's very easy to eat that stuff up, right? And to get all starry-eyed and see if that's going to work. And that's fine. You should sort of dissect and see what it is that they're actually doing in order to earn that business, right? But you should also look to see why they're putting it out there. Most likely those people are putting it out there as a precursor to selling you their course or their mastermind or their group on how they're going to help you become an awesome digital marketer. What I would do is, first of all, find some names that you trust. So we were talking in the pre-call about the traffic and conversions
Mm-hmm.
summit, right? So like that's a good one. There's a social media examiner expo also that happens. If you want to get into sales funnels, there's the ClickFunnels community. Find something established and just go with them. I think that you are going to end up paying for a few courses here and there and different
Mm-hmm.
materials and different trainings and things like that. Just try to see who really is doing it, instead of just the person that targeted you on Facebook saying, hey man, I'm going to make you $1 million next week.
Yeah. Well, and I think going through, like you said, YouTube and some of the courses too, and finding what actually piques your interest and what you enjoy. Because some of this, like you said, there's things that you do that you don't enjoy, but figure that stuff out before you really dig too far into it.
Exactly. So the things that you don't enjoy doing, outsource,
Yeah.
right? So I can code, right? But I don't particularly like it. It takes me a long time to do so. So make sure you have that guy who can, who can code for you.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in this country. I know how to write. I've written essays before. I don't particularly like writing blog posts for, 800 words on women's health, for my for my doctor's clients. Fi- Find somebody who can do that for you, right?
Yeah.
And usually it'll be a lot more cost effective.
So true, so true. But actually knowing a little bit, knowing just enough that you could do some damage is good too. I can build a website. That does not mean I want to. I'm complete
Exactly.
opposite end of you.
Right. And also I think that, the other big piece of advice I would give here is that, don't chase um don't chase opportunities. Make the opportunities work for you, right? So say for example, like you're building websites, and this happened to me. I got my butt burned with this. Was that I established myself as a Joomla and WordPress expert, right? And then I had this one client that came around. It's like, nope, I want you to use this other, I forgot the name of it already. And I was like, nope, I don't, I don't work on it. And he was very insistent, and then he threw a big check at me, right? And I'm like,
Mm.
well, I kind of needed the money at the time, so I took it. And long story short, I failed miserably. And 3 months later, I basically refunded him the whole thing. And I'm just like, it's all yours. Go for it. Sorry for your loss. Like, good luck to you guys. But that was a really big lesson, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you fire a client like that, right? And we could talk about firing clients because
Mm.
that's a big thing, right? But when you fire a client like that, it opens up your energy so that you can go back to serving the clients that you love and that love you, right? And when you get into a relationship that the client isn't a good fit, or they're calling you at all hours and they're just acting all crazy and just, yeah, no,
And
no,
trust your gut. Your gut initially said, "This is a bad idea. This is a
this
bad
is a bad.
idea." But you see that check, and it just kind of changes things. So, did that
It,
client turn out? Was it the fact that you were trying to build something on another platform, or was the client the bigger issue?
Both. It
Both.
turned out to be, well, because I was trying to tell him, like, well, like, why are you going with this half-baked e-commerce solution? Why aren't you going with something like Spotify? Oh no, with this half-baked e-commerce solution. I'm like, okay. Well,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna have to find another programmer that knows just this specific thing. It was just bad, right?
And he was
One
not
thing
willing to be educated on
he
why
wasn't
it's
willing to be
different
educated on
or
it.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was still in the mode of, well, I'm willing to educate because I was still in like learning phase, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe I should learn this. No,
Mm-mm.
no, just walk away. Like, no, don't do that.
So I love the fact that your businesses are location independent. So how do you make that work, and what tools or programs do you use to make it work?
So, let's start with the office space, right?
Okay.
So for a long time, up until 2020, right? I did not work from home, right? Because I would just feel like prison, and I just didn't want to be in the same place all day, every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I got a subscription to WeWork,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would drive 20 miles to the nearest WeWork, and I would work from there and just put on my headphones and go and do it. And then so I got divorced about 7 years ago, and what that did is that I went from being 100% dad to a 50% dad. 50% of the time I needed to be with my
Mm-hmm.
kids. That other 50% of the time, I did not need to physically be here, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, wait a second. If I don't physically need to be here, I could be somewhere else, anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And that's where I just developed this wanderlust, and like, how far can I push this? So I would go to, Los Angeles for a week, just, try to network over there. I would go to New York for a little bit. I'm like, wait a second, why am I still sticking around over here? Then I started going to Europe and to South America. And it just became, like working from another latitude, for some people, it's really distracting. For me, it's really creatively invigorating. And
Mm-hmm.
that you're able to, just uh, I think there was like I was like 4 days in Berlin, and I had a big deadline then, but so I didn't really see much of the city except at night. But still, I was in a different latitude. I was architecture, everything around me was completely different, it was very creative, and like I really enjoyed it, right? And
It
I would
really
much
does
rather have
change
been
your
there.
brain.
It
Yeah.
really does change your brain. And it's like, okay, great. So, so WeWork is one of them. Having a dual SIM phone is another, right?
Okay, what is that?
So iPhones, the latest iPhones now have it. Androids, not like you won't get it at T-Mobile or the Sprint stores, but if you order the same model of your phone on Amazon, like a Samsung Galaxy S9, S10, I don't know what they're up to now. The international versions allow you to put two SIM cards into the phone,
Okay, gotcha.
right? So what happens? So you keep your SIM card, for your home country, and then when you go to Europe, you get a prepaid card for like $20-$30. Your internet is going to be a lot faster, right? You're going to be on the local thing, and you can still receive phone calls,
Yeah.
from your home country as well. So for me, that was a really big win. A good pair of headphones, right?
Yeah.
So, the Bose noise canceling ones, those just, they block out everything, and, it just creates a little sound chamber. And of course, a powerful laptop that you can carry around with you. You want to
Nice.
make sure that you have the computing power to do whatever it is you need to do while you're away.
So those people that I talk to on this podcast that travel, and there's a lot of them that do, I always ask, where's your favorite place to travel to?
Ooh, I have a lot of them. I'm sorry. So my wife now, she's from Brazil, right? And she needed to go back, because her business is still based there in Sao Paulo. And when I would accompany her, it's just great, because it's an overnight flight. And she would, when we land at the airport, put her stuff away. She would go to her office, and I would go to mine, right?
Nice.
And and it's just nice, to just keep on going. So I don't even bother to tell clients anymore, like, oh, I'm traveling, don't call me, or put on that out of office reminder, like none of that.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, I managed to take my kids to Hong Kong and Japan. And
Now,
my
how old are
my
your
kids,
kids now?
they're 16 and 14, so
Okay.
they were 14 and 12 at the time, right? So they were old enough, but you still needed to kind of watch them. But they know and understand that I'm still on the clock,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what was really cool was that we were walking around the central area of Hong Kong. I get the email is, hey Jeff, I really need you to sign this contract. I'm like, great, I'm in Hong Kong. What the how am I going to do this? Well, just go into a WeWork. It was so freaking hot over there, right? Because it's just this really hot and humid place. We ended up spending like 4 or 5 hours, because the kids are like, oh great, fast internet, air conditioning. No, we're not, a little bit of America, that
Yeah.
they could everyone speaks English. She's like, no, that's great. But they know that that when I travel, I need to, there every once in a while I need to like duck away
Stop.
in order to,
Yeah.
stop and do things. um Depending on the time zone, maybe it's just me waking up an hour or two before them,
Mm-hmm.
right, in order to just log on and do whatever. Or if it's making sure that but it's also, it takes a little bit of planning, making sure my team knows, where I am, what's expected of them, what things are coming down the pipe, are coming down the pipeline, so that you can be sure that everything has, is still running, and then
Yeah.
I was just able to just check in and,
Yeah.
answer questions, and it's all good, you know.
So that's one thing we haven't talked about yet. What does the team look like now? Now that you're
Um,
established and been around for a while.
HR happens. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, it fluctuates. So I try to, I while I would like to work with full-time people, I just have a harder time doing it. I like, when I do hire somebody, I'm looking for other freelancers that like and engage in the freelance world, not those that are like, oh, I'm unemployed right now and I'm looking
Mm.
for a gig type
Mm-hmm.
thing. And that distinction is really important, right? Because as soon as they find, as soon as they find a full-time job, which will eventually happen, you lose them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for me, training is expensive, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have to train them on the Jeff way of doing things. I need to train them on, what this client looks like versus the other ones. It's a pain. um I think for the most part, trying to create a culture is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing, when I can, I try to travel to meet them in person, right? And that I found has been my secret sauce, because once you break bread with somebody, not virtually, not on this,
Mm-hmm.
the screen thing that we're doing, but really do it in person. It changes the dynamic completely, right?
Yeah,
Because now
because
you're
you're
real.
real. You're real.
You're
Yeah.
real. And they think, if I'm working, there was this one paid ads guy I worked with in Uruguay, really great guy, knew his stuff. I mean, the fact that he was just so blown away that I took the time to go down there and meet with him. It was
Mm-hmm.
like that's it. I'm the coolest guy since sliced bread,
Well, and you got a
and
lot more loyalty to you because you've got some skin in the game too, because you took the step to go down there and get to know him and know his environment and the things that he's dealing with in his world.
exactly. So, that can apply to just about everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
About everybody that you're dealing with, even those that, they're in the Philippines or in India. Like my guy in India is the only one I haven't gone and visited yet, right? But, everyone else is like, yeah, when can we meet? You know?
So is
And
the whole team all across the globe, or are they mostly US?
no, right now I have a couple of content writers here. I have a couple in the Middle East. Um, yeah, I have a programming team also in Argentina, and it's great. It's nice to know that I can pull from that diversity, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
some of them have different skills than others, especially when you're working with expat Americans versus local people. There's just this different dynamic, right? It's like there are lots and lots of people who can write university level English around the world, right? But if you're trying to do that with somebody in the Philippines, and I'm not meaning to knock on them specifically, right? But if you need to explain to them what a 401k plan is,
Yeah.
right? An expat American would just know that, oh, that's your retirement plan. But if you have to sit there and explain it each and every time, there's
Slows your
something that's
process
lost on.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, it slows your process down. Or if you try to talk about coffee culture, like working out of a coffee shop or things like that, for somebody who doesn't do that, that's a stretch. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to think to yourself like, okay, how am I get so I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that chemistry as well.
Mm.
I'm looking for that somebody I can connect with, somebody who I'm friendly with. Not that I'm trying to be your friend, but it would help that we're friendly with each other, that
Yeah.
like I get to know their situation, whether they have like, I don't know, sick family members at home, or if they have 8 kids running around, different holidays in different countries. That's a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not everyone the other cultural norms like 13th salary. A lot of these developing countries have the concept of what's called a 13th salary, right? Where it's usually it's what we would call here a Christmas bonus,
Oh,
right?
okay.
But over, like in the Philippines, or in Latin and South America, it's codified in law for people that work in corporate jobs, right? But since you're a freelancer, you can get away with, you can feign ignorance on it, right? But if you adhere to those same norms that they're used to, right, that also increases the
Yeah.
loyalty, right? Because like, how are you going to do it? And also, like, figuring out like what's the Amazon of that country, right? So, or
Mm.
figure out a way to get to buy gift cards. you
Mm-hmm.
know you can't just go and give them a Starbucks gift card. That Starbucks gift card only works here,
Yeah.
right? So you want to, and Amazon doesn't ship everywhere, right? So if you can find out what they use locally, and I think that also you're working, you're trying to work with the disparities of income, right? It's,
Mm-hmm.
when you're paying someone 5, 10, $15 an hour versus what you'd pay over here, 25, $30 an hour, there's a big disparity. Whereas, $100 to you and I is a good steak dinner. It's electricity for their family,
Mm-hmm.
someplace else. And, you kind of got to, make that shift. So the more generous you can be with them, the more I think you can cultivate that loyalty much, much better.
So true. So true. So when do you decide that it's time to find and hire someone else, whether that be employee or your contract work? How do you know when it's time to actually bring somebody else in?
When the first employee maxes out, right?
Okay.
Eventually, people do max out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that replacing it was, so here's something: ownership, right? Like, I own my clients and the work that I put out for them. An employee won't necessarily do that for you, right? they won't own it. Like you give them 10 tasks and they get the tasks done, and then they want to close up shop, and their priorities are different. So
Mm-hmm.
getting them to work as hard as you are, they're just not going to do that at whatever it is that you're paying them, right? So that's it's important to think about it, right? So so first of all, diversify, right? I mean, even if you have just one writer on staff, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes, some stupid mistake at some point. You can use Grammarly, you can use the spell check, right? But something is going to happen, right? So try to have two part-timers as opposed to one full-timer,
Mm-hmm.
right? At
Backup.
least with two part-timers, right? You can, when one writes something, the other one proofs it. When
Mm.
the second one writes something, the first one proofs it, right? So, you can do things like that to, sort of mitigate. It also helps you grow because, you know, um, they're going to get pregnant. They're going to get, they're going to get, they're going to have their different holidays.
I
They're going
laugh.
to,
I laugh when you said get pregnant because in our company there was five. Most of us are women. We have one guy, and the rest of us are women. Three of us got pregnant all within 1 month of each other. Or when I say 1 month, like I was pregnant, the
there's
other one
something in the
was due
water.
2 weeks later. None of us were near each other. It wasn't the water,
Yeah.
but all three of us went on maternity leave all within 4 weeks of each other.
Now, the thing about maternity leave here in the US is that it's like, okay, great, you had your baby, when are you coming back?
Yeah.
Right? In the rest of the
And,
world, maternity leave is a 3 to 6 month affair,
mm-hmm.
right? Now, you can be in, not to pay them for it, or you could try to hang on to their job, right? But these are things you need to plan for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're full-time, part-time, freelancer, whatever, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's company, one of her editors just didn't even announce that she was pregnant. She announced that she was going on mat leave, right? So we had no idea, and it's like right now in her earnings season, right? Where she needs that work right away, and she gave her like 3 days notice, like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm taking off for 3 months because I'm having a baby. That's a WTF moment, right? It's like
Yeah.
that was not very professional, so it really put her in a bind.
Oh yeah, because not like you didn't know for 9 months that you were gonna have a baby.
Exactly, right? So, not everyone is going to give you that courtesy. It's not that they're bad people, it's just that their priorities are different,
Yeah.
right? So, you can, if you can clone a Tabitha,
Yeah.
great. Go ahead, good luck with that. I've been trying to clone a Jeff for a good long time now, and I have not been successful at it.
No, it's hard.
So,
But treating people right, like my employer, I got 3 months off paid for maternity leave, which was incredible. So am I a more dedicated employee now because of that? You better bet so.
hell yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course. I think GoDaddy gives 6 months, even
Oh wow.
even for the guys as well. Yeah, my account rep over there, he's like, yeah, I'm going on mat leave. I'm like, at first I was like, dude, seriously? Like, he's like, yeah, well, the guys get it too. And I'm like, wow.
That's
And that is,
incredible.
I had never heard that in any company, much less a United States based
Yeah.
company. And that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Dads usually get a week, if that. If
If that.
that. Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes it comes out of your vacation time.
Yep.
Over here, we're just not set up for something like that, right?
Which is
And
sad. It needs to change.
but these countries, those rights are codified in their laws. And even though you were circumventing them by hiring outside of the country and not paying the taxes and being a freelancer and all that, it's still the right thing to do to make sure that those people are taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
It
So
goes a
true.
long way in cultivating loyalty.
Yeah, and finding the team that's going to stick with you and not bounce in and out every time something changes. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So do you have any other projects or business ventures that are on the horizon that you want to share about this?
I love the idea of chatbots.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm diving headfirst this quarter into chatbots and setting up some sales funnels for local businesses. I think that they're an amazing way to collect leads. They're an
Mm-hmm.
amazing way to pass out discount codes, occasions, and they're relatively easy to implement.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my latest focus now is
Yeah.
integrating chatbots into the agency model.
Well, and I think there's such a big thing right now for especially restaurants in the COVID industry or COVID culture that we're in, where you can't go into restaurants much anymore. It's a great way to get your information out there. And I know better, but I signed up for one the other day. It was a pizza place that was like, oh, it's your birthday. Here, sign up for this. And I went through the whole chat thing and I'm like, yep, I want that pizza. I want the pizza. I want the pizza. So it definitely works well. Definitely works well. So one of the last questions that I always like ending all the podcasts with is, what are you currently listening to, reading, or watching that's helping you grow as a person or as an entrepreneur?
I am nerding out right now on anything Russell Brunson and the ClickFunnels community.
Okay.
I've really latched onto their, their mode, their excitement about doing things. I went to their convention a year and a half ago, and one of the things I have a terrible, violent allergic reaction to are the people that show you your wealth. The ones that like, see my watch. You see that ring? Do you see that big house with the, in the ocean? Show me that and I'm out the door.
I was like, you mean that house you rented just to do that?
Yeah. Don't show me your Ferrari. Don't show me your thing. And I'm like, I went to that convention thinking if someone so much shows me a picture of their house, I'm out of there. Right? Nobody did. Nobody did. And what was funny is that you're in a room where you don't know who's a millionaire and who isn't, who's killing it in the space and who isn't. And like some of the people I was talking to, and then like you're just and yeah, they're cool people, hanging out at the at the concession thing, while trying to get. And then 10 minutes later, the guy's up on stage, and it's like, well, wait a second. It's like he's a real person.
Yeah.
He's a real person, and he's it was just a really good community, and that's why I lit up to it. It's just they genuinely serve this community, right, as opposed to just trying to get money out of you. So that's what I'm binging on right now.
I like it. So where can our listeners find out more about you and about your agency and what you're up to?
So the best way to reach me is to check out my website, jeffmendelson.com, jeffmendelson.com. My podcast is also there. I have a podcast titled The One Big Tip, where it's a short format, 10 to 15 minute discussion where I interview people that deal with, just one big tip and how to make it work for you, how to measure it, how to implement it. And, link and Messenger. I love talking about this stuff if you haven't noticed it yet. So, please feel free to reach out. I love this stuff, right? I can talk about each one of these subjects all day, every day. So,
well, that's when work no longer is work, when you just enjoy it that much. So,
exactly.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for being on the podcast. I have enjoyed our conversation and getting to know like your path and your travels and all that. So thanks for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. For more tutorials on growing your digital marketing agency, make sure to visit digitalagencyinsiders.com.